delegations that's going to be presenting. We're going to start out with Mr. Peregrine. She's on Downtown Oxford Economic Development Corporation.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Let me bring up this slide deck. All right, everybody can see that. Perfect. So while you're pulling that, I want to take an opportunity to introduce myself, Pierre Jean, current board president of Downtown Economic Development Corporation, now named Ox Forward, which you'll see in my slide very soon. The point of me being up here today is basically just to introduce the organization to those of you who have not had a lot of experience with us, and to reintroduce the organization to the folks who have. This is a Main Street America program, which is run by the U.S. in North Carolina. It's NC Main Street and Rural Planning Center is an organization that's administered under the Department of Commerce. Ox Forward, as I mentioned, is the name of the organization when we went through the rebranding process at the same time the city did, through lots of research, surveys, and feedback from folks. This is the direction that we chose. The idea is to create some movement forward and kind of put that into the name. So you start to see us use that more and more. I'll let a little video run here because Ms. Liz Parham can do this in a whole lot fewer words than I can, but she's going to give an overview of the North Carolina Main Street program. I think there should be a video right there. Maybe see that thing to the right. It just started on mine by itself. No. All right, if not, you'll have to take my word for it. On the website, under North Carolina Main Street, there's a video. The director for the state is named Liz Parham, and she's got a sort of an overview of how this program is set up throughout the state. The way we're set up in Oxford, this organization in the North Carolina was set in the 1980s. Oxford has been a member since 1998, and the organization focuses on sort of 4 key areas: organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality. And that's sort of how our committees are organized, essentially providing a framework for revitalization of the downtown historic districts. Ox Forward, DOEDC, is a 501c3. It's essentially a partnership with the city of Oxford. This is an organizational structure that's used throughout the state, but there are groups that do it as a department within the city, and there's groups that do it as an independent 501c3. Ours is called a quasi-relationship, which in our case means the director is a city department head and is a full-time employee of the city of Oxford. We do have a volunteer board, and we have city and county representation on our board. We have volunteer committees. Everyone that serves on this group, with the exception of the events planner and our director, are volunteers. These committees are set up to be promotions committee, design committee, and commerce committee. And this organization is funded through the MSD tax, which the city collects on our behalf. We did get the data back from the city, or sorry, from the state through February of 2025, and the tax rates throughout the state vary. Ours is 0.1 per thousand, and that's the lowest tax rate that's used statewide, and they go up from there. So we've been able to do all the things that we're doing in downtown at the lowest tax rate that we possibly can, based on the other numbers that we're seeing throughout the state. This group was established to improve the economic landscape and the quality of life in downtown Oxford. It's set to help revitalize and lead the revitalization of downtown and attract new businesses into Oxford. We work as hard as we can to be partners, and we do that through local government, other agencies, and community membership. The focus is preserving downtown character while encouraging new developments and attracting visitors to downtown. So the way we're set up Economic development is about attracting new businesses, fostering entrepreneurship through training and resourcing. Business support is in the form of networking, training, and workforce development. And we're currently working on projects for incentives for some of our businesses. If you're not familiar, the MSD it very much overlays kind of the central business district of Oxford, the way it's zoned, but the MSD is a tax district. So if you look, it predominantly takes up the major business corridors in downtown Oxford. So it's not everything within the city limits, but it is a subsection. That map is a little bit dated, and some of those areas are things that we do look at every 5 or 6 years, kind of look at that district and see where growth opportunities are and where our current businesses are, so that we make sure that we can service those areas. We also look at opportunities to do community engagement. So as an organization, we do provide sponsorships, marketing support, advertising for folks that we think are going to help support new business or growth downtown, or even just attraction for folks that come from out of town. So some of the past successes, in March of 2016, the Downtown Master Plan. You lose me? Yeah, keep going. You go right there. So 2016 was the Downtown Master Plan. This does predate my time in Oxford, but this was a centerpiece of understanding what the sort of path forward was for downtown Oxford. And a lot of those projects over the last decade have been implemented, or portions of them have been implemented. In 2023, obviously our group was part of the comprehensive plan that the city of Oxford did. We've had multiple Main Street revitalization projects and awards statewide. We've actually got Trey Snide in the back. He was our Main Street champion this year. He was awarded that, which is a great honor for somebody in a community like this. You're put up against nominations from throughout the state for Main Street champions, and also projects like Reuse Downtown. We try to participate where we can in recruitment and retention of businesses for downtown, public improvements for both aesthetic reasons and also for just ease of access to our downtown spaces, and then supporting and in some cases facilitating some regional and local festivals. So next on our list is an update of the Downtown Master Plan. These are priorities. We run on the same fiscal cycle that y'all do. Some of these are projects that will begin before July, but some of these will be projects that will happen next year. There are items within that plan from 2016 that have been completed, and we want to update the master plan to show some of those. There are also areas within the master plan that were not sort of fully built out in terms of priorities, like there's more work to do around pedestrian access downtown, some of the public safety items, as well as integrating the pedestrian plans, and some of like the comprehensive plan y'all did last year and the UDO have all been updated since that plan was set up. And there really wasn't a lot of work done around parking or planning for parking for the future. So there's areas within the master plan that we can explore. Our focuses are also around connecting neighborhoods and people to downtown. Some of the developments, again, we'll go back to 2016 in the master plan. These developments and where the folks are locating the newer projects aren't necessarily the most connected to downtown. So we're making sure that we find ways to either physically or virtually connect folks, making sure that they know where downtown is. We find a lot of times that how people find Oxford, is very different. You might find somebody that came to town to get a passport because it was an easy place, easier than Raleigh to get an appointment, or they went to the DMV, and some folks think they have passed the center of downtown Oxford when they get to the Hardee's and George's intersection. And so we encourage them to maybe come just a little bit further and explore what is a very vibrant downtown. Also looking at green spaces. We talked about pedestrian access, infill projects around, obviously lots of discussion currently about projects that are just a little bit further out in terms of housing developments and other opportunities for growth. But there's also plenty of those within the downtown and areas as you move away from downtown towards like the Loop. Want to make sure that we advocate for those projects, as well as any gateway projects. These are, again, discussions about how to get people from, if they pulled off the highway for the gas station or they pulled off the highway for fast food, to make sure that it's very obvious to them that there's an area down here that's worth exploring. And then there's also some fairly significant I'll call them large scale, but medium scale redevelopment opportunities within the downtown areas or just outside of the immediate downtown areas of Oxford. We want to be proactive in finding out what opportunities are there, helping start to connect some of the land owners together, so that we can market some of those places that are either vacant or underutilized in their current state. So our collective mindset, and this is how we work together. We have a liaison from this board on our board. We also have a director, as I said before, who's a city employee. So we feel like we should be plugged into the conversation well, but we want to make sure we get in the routine of reporting back and making sure that everyone else is informed of what we're doing. So our collective mindset starts with implementing asset-based economic development strategies. And I had to look that up, so I'm going to tell you what it says, because it's sort of a mindset when it comes to economic development. And asset-based economic development means a community-driven approach that focuses on identifying and leveraging existing local assets, natural resources, cultural heritage, skilled workforce, local businesses to foster sustainable economic growth and improve the quality of life in a region, rather than solely relying on the attraction of outside businesses and development in order to basically build our identity, and focus more on what we already have and what we want to grow that makes us unique. So I thought that was kind of an interesting definition. Continue to collaborate. What's good for Oxford is good for Granville County. And we'll say that until we're blue in the face. Even if nobody listens all the time, it's fine. But what's good for Oxford is good for Granville County. Make downtown a destination for all, both businesses and for folks who live in our community. Understanding as a group what your vision is and what our vision is, so we define success in a meaningful way and give us the opportunity to measure successful growth. So what are the metrics for vacant buildings, new business, new housing? So that way, when we find opportunities, we have a way to grab those and say, we know this is a good idea because we've thought about it. And we want to be a voice for businesses and property owners. As Oxford enters the boom years, we advocate for what we're calling value-added growth. Again, it's making sure we've got a plan, and when those opportunities present themselves, we jump all over them. And we want to continue to be a partner to the city and to its stakeholders. So that's what was DOEDC, still a mouthful. Now Ox Forward, which is a little bit easier to say. We do have some statistics that have been just rolled off. I shared some of that with you earlier in terms of the tax rate. The organization as a whole financially is healthy. We have a very active board, 10 voting members and 4 ex officio, and I've lost count, dozens, 50 plus probably volunteers that serve on boards that show up in the community. It's a very active group, and we've been working hard to make sure that our communication is improving so that we get the different opinions and perspective of our landowners and our business owners. So that's what I have for you today. Any questions from anybody?
I was looking for a little more clarification on that y'all operate on the lowest tax rate in terms of support. I'm assuming you're talking about support from the city of Oxford.
Yes, sir.
So what are you saying that, and then I heard you just recently say y'all are doing good financially.
We're financially healthy. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, financially healthy, okay. But when you initially said we are supported at the lowest tax rate in the state, I was curious about that. So what do you mean by that?
So there's 2 types of Main Street communities. One is, so there was an MSD rate which can be applied to any city that wants a downtown municipal service district tax rate can implement it. Main Street programs specifically are communities that are less than 50,000 people. And so they range the tax rate and it's on a property tax, like the businesses. Right. If you rent a business, you don't pay this tax. The property tax covers it. The lowest rate is 10 cents per thousand, and the highest rate is 27 cents per thousand. And there's a whole list here of cities that use those. And so I guess my point was all the things that we're involved in and all the money that we spend downtown, we are able to do that while only collecting basically the lowest rate that anyone does in this. And we're probably not the only one at 0.1, but the lowest rate available. So that's good. I think there's obviously more we could do. There's lots of different lanes to explore, but even with the initiatives that we have around public art, infrastructure, advertising, the idea of coming back around to the master plan and what that would cost. We're about to put some additional wayfinding to what the city's doing, some interactive touchscreen information boards and kiosks that's partially funded through Granville Tourism, but the rest coming out of our budget. Those are all things we're able to do and still operate within the lowest tax rate that the state has on any municipality.
Okay.
You did mention one thing was accurate. I went down to get my driver's license on, I believe it was last Thursday. And you had folks from Raleigh, Holly Springs, all over getting their driver's license. I was very surprised by this. And the statement you made about not knowing where downtown is, it came to my mind. Is anything we could do, let's say, coming off the exits 204, 202, can say this direction to downtown Oxford? Because you're right, if you pull off that set, you may think Walmart is downtown, is Oxford.
Well, the comment from the gentleman specifically was he thought that Hardee's and that intersection was downtown.
Oh.
And that was, he was making fun of us a little bit, but it was, I think when we had originally discussed gateways, where does downtown begin? I think we were looking pretty close to downtown, and I think now there's an understanding that the downtown begins sort of more towards like where the highway exits are, all the way up at Revlon, all the way out at 96, and particularly as the developments are happening on the other side of those intersections. The last thing we want is a bunch of folks to move in outside of 85 on 96, and then they only come to the highway turn on whichever direction they're traveling, and they never come all the way over here. So I think a couple things that we've taken on as action items. One is finding ways to get information into places like that. Where are people coming into Oxford? So if it's the DMV, we go to the DMV and we have a conversation about putting information about downtown. If it's right there at the highway, we look at the opportunity for signage, that far out. Or in the case of the developments, we go and we visit, attend HOA meetings, just put our faces to some of those organizations that already have sort of working groups, and we can just add to the conversation.
Yeah, this is basically directed to Mr. Taylor. What we just went through, was it last board meeting? We talked about signage, and we still have that pending. Is there any way we can put something closer to those areas? Like if you come off 202, coming in town in 15, you come off 204, 206, coming in from down by the Meadows, can we have a sign directing the folks in downtown Oxford? Just honestly, nobody knows where we're at if they don't live here.
We put as much signs up as you and the NCDOT will allow us to do.
But maybe we can reach out to them, see, or that's it. They set the boundaries on signs.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be concerned about clutter, but I think what you're trying to do, I think they would be supportive of.
Okay. Fine.
Sir?
Commissioner McCray.
Hey, yeah, well, first, happy birthday.
Thank you.
To you. You mentioned, I think, the use of some type of technology. I guess that, could you elaborate a little bit on, of course, as we know, we're in that, if you have one of these, who doesn't have one of these now, but, I'm quite sure we could use that as far as, helping with the technology, letting everyone know that we're here. But could you elaborate a little bit on what your plan?
Yeah, so our current project that I'm right in the middle, I brought it up because it was like hot off the press. So we are in the middle. Last year, we applied for a grant through Granville County TDA for $20,000 for what was considered electronic downtown wayfinding kiosks, essentially. And so we've been through the process of getting information on those. We found a North Carolina vendor for those that's used in other towns. And from our Commerce Committee meeting last week, we're making a recommendation to our board Wednesday that we move forward with 2 of these to put in downtown Oxford. And we'll work with Public Works and folks to find the proper location. We've identified about 8 locations that they could go. And I think funding wise, 2 of them is probably appropriate. So it's a stand-up, think about a mall or an airport kiosk that you're used to seeing, touch screen with information about the city, events, shops, TDA. I'm sure we'll have some information on there based on their funding. But it was another way, and it also provides you with online access There's an app that goes with it. So that content is created in one spot, but it's available kind of in multiple platforms. And it's directed at people who have already sort of landed in Oxford. And so it takes care of one element of that. So we're trying to move them towards where people might start their venture in our town. So probably closer to some of the parking hubs. But then there's larger sort of add-on features to these type of products where you can then say, all right, I want to target motorists now, and I want to look at ways to attract them. But these are specifically to inform folks who have sort of found their way to Oxford. But making that information available through an app, QR codes to attach to our websites, we'll make sure that the content isn't just parked on there.
Gotcha.
So that should come your way probably. If we approve it on Wednesday, I guess we would cycle it back up to y'all probably in the next month to say, here's what we want to do. It goes obviously on your property. Here's our locations we'd like approved through Public Works, and see those, put in place maybe late summer.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
As you mentioned, you can expand on the kiosks. So we can probably see, maybe eventually have schools to it. If somebody's in town want to know where some school, maybe church or something like that. Is all that, could that be added to this program?
I think, yeah, I think content-wise, it's pretty unlimited. We could, HBC has an entire sort of map already set out. We've got an art walk set out. I think if someone's willing to, produce the content, I think any of that stuff can live there for visitor sort of interface.
Any more questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Doug Logan, which I don't think is any stranger to anybody in this town, in this city. Doug was asked when we talked about the armory to get it set up and get it going, to present ideas to the public and to the board. And Mr. Doug Logan took time from his busy schedule to voluntarily do this for the city. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. It's actually a pleasure to be before a city board for a change. Those of you that know me know I spent most of my adult life and career in county government. So standing before a city board, I've done it a couple of times, but I can't say the circumstances were always, hopefully, this well. But regardless of the case, it is a pleasure to be a little bit about myself. If you don't know who I am, I did spend 32 years in county government for Granville County, retired as the Emergency Services Director in 2019, got bored after 2 months and went back to work for a company named On Target Preparedness. So I'm still actively working in emergency management and planning and exercises and that kind of stuff. We takes me all over the state to be able to do stuff, but it ends up being a very active role in project management. I also had the opportunity to serve a couple of years ago as the interim county manager, right before County Manager Drew Cummings was hired there. So a little bit about me. Won't bore you about that. Oxford native, born and raised here. Graduated from J.F. Webb High School a couple of years before Miss Bowen there. So she's still got me on the youth side. But it is a pleasure. Next slide, please. Let's see. I guess a few months ago, Mayor Nurse and I were in a casual setting, having conversations about all the problems of the world and the different things going. And honestly, as a friend, I was inquiring as to how things were going with the mayor position and how are advancements making that. And I brought up the comment or the subject of the armory and asked if the city had any intention of what to do with the armory. Well, that conversation led to a whole nother rabbit hole to run down there. And obviously he mentioned the farmers market that was upcoming for this summer. Looking very much forward to that as well. But so much more we feel that could be there for our city, for our great city, that could serve our citizens. And, as all good things, no good deed goes unpunished. And next thing I know, I'm being asked to lead a steering committee so that we can kind of lay down some base rules for it. So one of the things to talk about that, what could this facility be? Just a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact, after we had already discussed setting up this steering committee, a few weeks ago, I was in Brazelton, Georgia, visiting my brother. He's also a city commissioner there in Brazelton. And we went to this old dilapidated mill place that they had, as a city, renovated and had a very nice, beautiful lawn. They had farmers market type stuff, food trucks out there. They had, I believe there was a band playing, and then inside there was retail space, multiple different kinds like that, meeting space. And the first thing that hit me was like, this would be a perfect way to explore our armory and how we could do that. Would it be best suited for retail? Would it be best suited for, different types of marketing, or perhaps some type of outdoor theater space or anything? Could it be a shared working space or whatever from that perspective? So there's so many opportunities that could possibly be there. But unfortunately, we have an entire community. Well, fortunately, I should say, we have an entire community to work towards, to support and make it available for everybody. Go to the next slide. So, Mayor Nurse and myself talked a little bit. I'm going to drag him into it. Pierre happened to be coming in on that conversation. And we talked about how do you move forward with this? And we felt that the best way to do that was to initially start with a steering committee that could decide on framework for future decision making. Obviously, the most efficient committee of any type is going to be a committee of one, but we don't want a committee of one because we don't want sole decisions or heavy decisions being made on that. But we wanted to be able to have a group that could come together and provide guidance and recommendations for the board to consider moving forward. We wanted to be able to establish the parameters for the larger stakeholders group, which would be made up of not only elected officials, but a lot of larger groups of our citizens that would be the ones that would be partaking in whatever this facility was able to be turned into. And we also would be able to address project management concerns. Next slide. So I really want to address right out of the gate what the steering committee will not be doing for you. Number one, it's no cost. All of us are volunteering that we've decided that we're going to do it. So, love my city, love seeing all the wonderful things that are happening with downtown Oxford. It never in my life growing up were we ever to have the opportunities that we have now for entertainment, for dining, for the community to get together and to really be that wonderful city that we are. But we will not be making recommendations or decisions on the actual uses of the facility. We will not be doing that. We're not going to talk about finances. That's got to come at a much later date. We're not going to take anything off the table. We're not going to put anything on the table. We're not going to make any of the side of the actual stakeholder group makeup. That will have to come from you as a board or from a much larger. But what we want to try to do is to say, we feel we need to address and include all these different communities within the city that would be able to do that, with the understanding that there will be county people coming in as well and people from outside. So next slide. We felt that steering committee members should be experienced project managers. One of the things that I had to do over my entire 32-year career with the county was manage projects anywhere from a half a day meeting to large-scale multi-million-dollar projects. So as that, the other team members within that would be experienced project managers on the steering committee. It needs to be people that are interested in the betterment of our downtown Oxford and make sure that it's there. We don't want somebody that doesn't want to see Oxford grow or advance to be able to happen that. And they need to have definitely a broad vision, but to have a focused mind, because we're going to be working on a real tight time frame here. Various experience and backgrounds to be able to be on the steering committee. Next slide. As I said earlier, the most efficient committee is a committee of one. So we really want to try to keep this as small as possible so that we can actually get work done. The larger the committee, the more discussion, the more things that go through that. And again, we're not looking at making major decisions. We're looking at making a framework in which the decisions may be made to be able to do that. So our committee would be no more than 6 members, with 5 of them voting and 1 ex officio, in case there were to be not a majority of the committee members to do that we would have that there. Next slide. So these are the members that we've come up with to place on this steering committee. Myself as lead. Harry Mills, most of you may remember Harry. Great friend of mine, wonderful person. I feel like he's a great leader, and he had wonderful project management to be able to handle that. Angela Allen, Tourism Development Director. Obviously, again, we're not deciding on uses, but we feel like Angela would have great influence on the committee's decisions as to how do we put this type of project together. David Cottrell, I worked with David a long time as through the Oxford Fire Department, and now most recently as Oxford Fire Chief. I've known David to be a very experienced project manager, very smart. He knows the operations of the city and the movement and how things would go there. Stephen Blasco, just found out tonight that he's going to be a part of the committee. Thank you very much for agreeing. And we were voluntold to do that, but we appreciate that as Public Works Director, managing all these large projects that we've had there to be able to do that. And Pierre, we drug him into that from the Downtown Economic Development as well. So next slide. Our anticipated timeline for report back to the board on establishing that framework, we're saying right now no more than 90 days. I really hope we'll get back sooner than that. It's very exciting for me to be able to have an opportunity to give back into the city after all the years of living here and entertaining and enjoying all the different things that we do. So we're going to try to really pick this up and move it forward so that your board will have a recommendation as to how we move forward with the larger stakeholder group. And that's it. I may try to make it very brief tonight. Does anyone have any particular questions? I will be more than glad to try to answer. If I don't know the answer at this point in time, I promise you I will find it out and get back to you.
Yeah, I was wondering about one of the possible uses of that space, outdoor theater. Now, that you're talking about the building staying there, but a outdoor theater being put near it or beside it.
So at this point, I feel like from the steering committee, that's really not going to be our workings of that. I was just thinking that was one potential just for the presentation tonight. The larger stakeholder group can certainly look at that. I feel like we'll come back with recommendations for anything from do nothing to, let's just level the whole place and make a brand new facility out of it. But at this point, no options are off the table as to what the potential could be. And again, our committee, our steering committee will not be working on trying to come up with uses or suggested uses of it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Logan?
Thanks for putting in the work.
Thank you.
Thank you guys in advance. What you're going to do.
As I say, I greatly appreciate the opportunity and look forward to it. Can't wait till we have a ribbon cutting in front of it. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Logan.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
We'll move right on to the agenda for this. Oh, okay, there you go. We have two discussion items today. The first one is vacant building ordinance discussion.
It was brought to our attention earlier in the year that there may be some interest in addressing vacant buildings by ordinance. I emailed an example of a potential ordinance late last week. The purpose of tonight is just to get some feel from you about, is this something you want to pursue and what type of direction you want to pursue in trying to reduce vacancies. In this case, we'll just give you outright commercial buildings, but I guess if you want to pursue it in any other area, I guess it's up to y'all as well. But the purpose of tonight was to kind of get the discussion going and seeing how you'd like to direct staff to shape something for you. So I'll just turn that back over to you, Mayor, and however you want to direct discussion.
Well, following last year's Main Street event in Goldsboro, the topic was mainly vacant building ordinances in all the towns and cities in North Carolina. Coming back to Oxford, I did see that everybody know that we have a lot of vacant buildings laying around the city. that's not generating any, well, taxes for us, or doing anything for the community. So we spoke about that, and I think there's a need. A vacant building ordinance does not obligate the owner to sell the building. We don't obligate them to lease the building. But we as a board has an obligation to get the most that we can out of the facilities we have in our city that will contribute to our cities. And if you walk around, you drive around, some of you drive around, do most of my walking, you'll see there's empty buildings. For 14 years, the Boland's building there next to Uptown's been empty. Finally, they're selling stuff out of there. 14 years, I believe, out in front of our Advanced Auto is a 2-floor brick building empty. Windows looks like they've been broken several times. In the corner of Lewis and Hillsborough, there's a big lot of vacant buildings. Behind the Orpheum, there's brick buildings vacant. And it's not contributing to what we can do with our city, what the city is growing to be. So I spoke with a couple of commissioners and we talked about this. I think definitely we need to implement this ordinance. I think we should look into it. Maybe not tonight, come with a conclusion, but this is just an open discussion. Now we can study and make these buildings become a use of ours to our city and our citizens. So I'm not sure if anybody else has anything to say on this.
I think a lot of us haven't been able to actually read through all of this stuff. I would definitely like to give our planning and development committee at least the opportunity to browse through it and see what's in it and the details of it, or sit down with the city manager and have them kind of go through a review basis of it before we move forward on making any approvals or anything like that in that matter.
Anybody else?
So I don't think I'm one of the commissioners you talk to, but you need, okay. So I guess I'd like to know what would be the goal or purpose of the ordinance?
It's pretty much simple. Take care of the vacant buildings we have in the city. They're not maintained. They're in bad shape. One, we want to get business in the city because we all know we need businesses in the city. We can't have a vacant building that's sitting in the city doing nothing. And they've been there for 14 years. That I've been living in this city.
Again, I agree with that statement. I'm simply trying to figure out what is the language of the ordinance going to try to say to help in that area. I mean, again, does it mean owners could be penalized if they don't move within a certain period of time in terms of getting something in the building? So I'm curious as to what the ordinance will try to accomplish.
The main goal of the ordinance is try to get the buildings to be used. We can't force them to sell it. We can't force them to rent it to anyone to do anything. The building, vacant building ordinance apply to just about every city in town in this state. Yes, there's a fee. There's a vacant building ordinance fee you got to pay. If you're gonna have a vacant building in the city, you got to pay a fee. And if you don't pay a fee, well, I mean, with the city or the planning department will suitably do what needs to be done. But the goal is to get the city to clear up these vacant buildings. That's the goal. We can't obligate them to do it, but it's a goal. But there's a fee to pay. We're sitting there for 14 years not doing anything with these buildings. The owners don't do anything. Some of them you ride around, the roofs are falling off. Windows are busted up, so they don't do anything because nobody's telling them anything. So if they have to pay a fee to have a vacant building, that may motivate them saying, wait a minute, so I'm paying in a building that's not having any use. The city is growing. We need the room. We need facilities for the city to operate.
I think a lot of it also has to do with we got certain facilities that are, I mean, they falling apart. I want to say the warehouses by the corner of Lewis and Hillsborough. There's been a few times that I'm walking from my house to Woody's, and it's a windy day, and you literally see sheet metal that they have nailed up on to the warehouse walls. They have come loose, and they might be dangling off a few nails, and they just, you know, in the wind and just flapping back and forth. We got other buildings in the downtown area where, especially when you're dealing with old red brick buildings, we got some of them, the paint is peeling on it. The concrete in between the brick is starting to wear and degrade. And there's certain maintenance that needs to be done to certain buildings. Some of the buildings downtown has had to get stucco put on them because of the dilapidating condition of the concrete within the red brick, just to make sure that it's suitable and to be able to hold itself up. But if we got owners that are not putting that layer of paint on there when it's starting to wear off and letting the weather just eat away at it, and they just don't care, and you got somebody that owns a building next door that takes care of their building and, you know, paint it, does everything that they need to do to it. I mean, you end up with, in some cases, some of these buildings start falling apart. Some of them even get in a condition where it starts getting water damage. After the water damage, it starts bringing in rodents and different stuff like that. So I believe a lot of it has to do with that and protecting other people who are invested in the community as well. They're from those that don't want to put nothing into their building or any maintenance into their buildings.
So I guess that,
Has anyone contacted the owners of these properties? Okay.
Well, I guess if there's no ordinance based on it, I mean, there's nothing to contact them about if there's no ordinance.
It would be I would just say a question of, have you got any plans on modifying your property, or, you know, just what's your plans for your property? Any aspirations, any ideas?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
The question is good, Mayor Pro Tem. I think it should be directed to ask Mrs. Hart if she can inject anything into this conversation as far as what relationship the ordinance code enforcement has with these buildings, or I'm quite sure they do keep contact with them. So.
Man, I'm gonna excuse myself for a quick second.
One particular property that we dealt with in terms of a safety aspect was one that we had private property involved in as well as inspections, and that's a building on Main Street where the roof was falling in, and so we were able to contact the owner and they've since stabilized that building. But in terms of aesthetics, we've not contacted anyone for paint this building.
Ms. Hart?
I was just thinking sometimes a nudge works if you contact the owners and let them know, as a city, we are concerned about the condition of your property, and aesthetics of it. Sometimes people think if you don't call me out, you don't care. Let them know that we care about our appearance and that their building is a part of our appearance. And first thing we need to do is ask, would you come in, look at your building, see what you could do to improve the aesthetics of your building before we go into a system of finding people, for not taking care of their buildings. That's just my thoughts on it.
Oh, Commissioner Bridges was, Commissioner, okay.
Oh,
Well, you were here first.
no, I was just saying, Commissioner Velez sort of answered my question. I'm not for or against any particular ordinance. My question is just for clarification. Since, Mayor, you said I've talked to some commissioners about an ordinance. And so my question is, what is the purpose of the ordinance that y'all would like the board to consider? And if it's to penalize folk who own buildings, who have not done anything to them, then that is something that I think everybody would like to know. And it sounds like that's what y'all are talking about, is fining people and penalizing them if they do not take steps to make their building look better.
I think the last thing we want to do is just go fine anyone and penalize everyone. But I think if we have an ordinance in place that we get guidance on, the city intends to be operated, that'd be fine. But you're right, we not the objective not to fine anyone. I mean, the city can take money one way or the other, but the objective is not to fine anyone. The objective is get the retail spaces or whatever they are to be used, back in use, working, improve it, help the city improve. And if I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna let Commissioner Lumpkins answer. You go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So we is it on? Yeah. So we have with the packet and the agenda, we have some proposed language. So I would support.
No, send an email. Because I just saw it as well. It's just in the email.
There is an ordinance on the agenda. It's
I-
attached.
I saw it on
And
the
then there was
agenda.
one that we
Yeah.
sent out later today
Yeah,
as an email.
I pulled it off the agenda
So
today.
there's two.
I think at this point it would go. Like Commissioner Velez said, we need to send it to a committee and all the commissioners review the language and gather after some questions and everybody has a chance to read it. I don't think right now we should be arguing over it in this way. So I think everybody should just have a chance to look at it and they go through proper channels with the committee.
And I guess to be fair, that's one of the reasons why I said, give the Plan Development Committee the opportunity to review it. Let's see what's in this, and let's see how we want to go about it. Because I do agree, Commissioner Bridges, that there should be at least a warning phase, a phase where. And from my understanding with Mrs. Hart, when her department addresses people with ordinance, they just don't come out there and start handing out fines. They usually address them and say, look, you're not, you're in violation of certain things, and they give them a time limit. And, so I think as far as the language is concerned, that's one of the things that I want to look at. What will be the warning phase? What will be the time limit? What are the steps before we get to fining somebody? And I do agree that if it gets to a situation where a person is just neglectful, they refuse to just want to do anything or not even make an initiative, to try to work on something, then that's a different thing. But I do think that we should review it. Sit down with Mrs. Hart and our city manager and review what's in here and the language.
Mr. Lumpkins.
Yeah, let's send it to the committee.
There is two draft. One was a little bit very harsh and very tough. And city manager you sent it to the city attorney for review, and then we were going to send it out to all the commissioners. But anyhow, regardless of that, we will do what's recommended. We go to the committee and have it addressed and reviewed by the committee.
And I would hope the committee would contact the property owners, because I'm quite sure some of the property owners are historical owners. What I'm saying is they didn't just buy it yesterday, and they are accustomed to the Oxford system. And I'm quite sure they're like myself. They're not teenagers. So I'm asking for common courtesy in approaching the owners. Unless you find somebody that really don't care, then you deal with them differently, but at least extend courtesy and let them know that this property ordinance is coming. Give them an idea of what's gonna be in it once it's formalized and what will happen. That's all.
Whatever we do, if we come and implement this ordinance, I would think we go to a public hearing first, right, city manager? And like Mayor Pro Tem said, yes, we need to identify and send it letters or certified letters, whatever we can, to the owners and let them know the city's looking into this ordinance.
Now, Mayor, do you need a motion to send it to the Planning and Development Committee?
Okay, so anybody entertain the motion?
I'll make a motion that it gets sent to the Planning and Development Committee to be reviewed.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item up is the Prospect Avenue discussion on the parking issues we've been having down there. Who wants to go? Mr. Taylor, would you like to address this first, or any commissioner would like to address this?
If you want to address it, you can, but I'll just say by virtue of introduction that we've had some parking concerns expressed by the residents that live there. We've had some of our staff look into it. Planning director and the police chief are here to also speak on it as well. If you have questions about it, certainly Commissioner Bridges knows it's been an issue of real concern about it. And if you want to talk more about it before we have that discussion, certainly feel free to do that. But we wanted to kind of get some guidance of what we can send into the area of how we're going to try to address that. We've had some conversations, in particular with the assisted living place, to try to alleviate some of the parking issues. My understanding is that really hasn't come to avail like we had hoped. So now we're having a little bit more discussion about it, and so we wanted to get some guidance and direction from you of how we want to try to start approaching that.
I received, this is probably the 6th call from one of the residents. I thought she was just calling to remind me once again that they were parking in front of her house, but this time a delivery vehicle actually ripped the front of her mailbox off. So that was a new one. But, and I told her, you know, she needed me to help her and discuss, because this lady, this is the 93-year-old resident that showed up, thanking her again for showing up, Mrs. Ward. But the And every time she calls me, I tell her we are actively working on this issue. We haven't forgotten about her. Every meeting that we've had, which is the truth, since I brought it up the first time and they came up here, we have been actively working on this. I feel we've done as much as we can as far as throwing the softballs. So at some point, we have to be a little more stringent. I think the issue that we're up against is this is a decades old problem. And when people get locked in, it becomes part of the culture. Everybody parks there, for the most part. I'll admit, when my grandmother was there, I have parked there, but I normally park all the way up at the top, not in front of people's houses, because you can't park there 9 times out of 10 because there's always somebody there. But and looking at this problem, I think we're doing our best to not punish the residents, which is truly what we should not do. And trying to come up with something that works for them and the business. I feel the business still, they have ample parking for their staff. So there is no need for anyone dealing with that business needing to park on the side of the street. If anybody parks on the side of the street, it should strictly be for the residents because they have 2 parking lots. Although one of them is not ideal as far as where you have to walk, because I think you have to walk through some grass to get to the building. But that can be fixed with a few yards of concrete. The business can fix that with a few yards of concrete. The other parking lot is direct access to the business. They can walk straight from the parking lot straight to the business. So I would like to get a resolution for these citizens. They've all been suffering with this for a long time. And so whatever, I think we need to put our heads together and go ahead and come up with something that will enforce or encourage, I'll say encourage the business owners to have their employees and people who visit that business park in the parking lots. But that's why they built them.
Today, no one was parked beyond the yellow lines on Jones Street or on Prospect Avenue at 9:45 this morning. Beyond the yellow lines.
I just wanted to add to that, Commissioner Fields, that's probably been helpful with my department. We've been issuing parking violations for people who are parking on the yellow curb.
I saw them. Another thing, Universal uses a lot of agency staff. And when I say agency staff, they've got several lists that they can call. And if they need an RN for a shift, they can look on this board, put what they're paying per hour, and an RN from a Hosky can click it. She can just click it, saying, I'll accept that position. She drives in, say she's coming in at 7 to 7. There's nobody there to tell her which parking lot is for staff, which parking lot, anything. So we have to consider, we still have to consider all of the objectives when we do whatever we're gonna do. The enforcement of parking at beyond the yellow lines work because I got tickled. And I said, ooh, it worked because I had seen it in action. But we have to consider more than just the staff, because a lot of the staff that work there don't live here. Reluctantly to say, sad to say, but a lot of them don't. They're like the hospitals and most of the nursing facilities now. Everybody's using agency staff.
Commissioner Bellis?
I think it's simple. On the side of the road that the facility's on, just put no parking signs. A lot of the issue is with these seniors backing out of their driveway and a car is parked directly across the street where they can't get that full back out of their driveway without hitting something or anything like that. So I don't see why they just can't be as easy as that curb got painted yellow. Just put no parking signs on that side of the facility. Contact the facility, ask them can they put up a sign that says visitors parking on this side, employees parking on the other side. I don't see why we're going back and forth so much on this. Just no parking on their side of the road. That's it. And if you want to make it specific on the other side of the road, put residential parking. You know, for homeowners.
I personally have made it. I've seen a lot of photos from different commissioners on this subject, and I know we've been working back and forth on that. I made some trips on there. I made night trips. I made day trips. There's 2 parking lots. One needs a sidewalk. Yes, it's the owner of the facility's responsibility to put the sidewalk in. There's no sign. Yes, the hospital will tell you visitors and staff, or staff parking only, whatever. I still think that's the responsibility of the owner of the facility. We don't need to beat ourselves up and need to worry about residential parking lots, anything like that. If they have the adequate parking and they have adequate lighting at night for their visitors and their attendants, I think it's the owner's responsibility. I'm seeing where we talked about talking to the manager. I think I saw a couple lines come across that it didn't work. You just need to approach owners and get them to sit down and talk to them about it. See, we have this problem. You know, you have 2 parking spaces. You have sufficient parking. Put the signs up. This is where your employee park. This is where your visitors park, and try to work it. I mean, if they don't do it, have the police department just keep issuing tickets. But they have parking. It's the owner's responsibility to provide parking down there. So why are we discussing this so much? I just think it's just going too far.
Chief Ford, can you share with the board what you shared with me in our conversation when you said what the people who you had issued tickets to, what they said in regards to communication from management?
That they had not been, information had not been shared with them about restricting parking only to the parking lots. No one had told them,
That's it.
not be able to park on the street. So I think it was basically, they had communicated from their administration. I think instead of putting no parking on that side of the street, if we restrict parking from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I think with the age of our residents in that area, I might be wrong, but I don't think a lot of people past the age of maybe 85, 90 years old, they're going to venture out too much at night. Usually they have their business done, they're back in the house by 1 p.m. I know that's the way my parents and my in-laws are. But I think restricting it Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And that would be a better solution than actually no parking at all.
Has anyone who contacted the management, Mr. Taylor? We officially contacted the management of the facility.
And
Okay, good.
it's one thing talking to the manager of the facility. You need to talk to the owner, and the owner of that facility changes.
But I do agree.
Gracious.
That's parking lots are very dark.
Yes, they are.
Especially for females, I would be very reluctant. I don't know what the work schedule is like, but someone having to go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's dark. I mean, you can almost understand why they go to Fourth Street Lane instead of into a darker space. But I do think it's up to the building owner or owner.
The owner.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned, Chief, we had 2 parking lots lighted. Would the lighting creating any problems for the neighbors there? Sometimes you put a light up and it's reflecting.
Probably.
Exactly. So again, Mr. Taylor, I think it's just simple. To the management, now we go talk to the owner.
Not management, owner.
That's what I'm saying. We went to
Owner.
the management, let's go talk to the owner and take it from there on. And see how it results.
And I think I will be open for the no parking from 9 to 5. But I will want to extend it for all 7 days of the week. Because I went there on the weekend and there were, I mean, it's in the morning, 10 cars on the side of the road. And you could probably, one parking lot only had one car, the other parking lot maybe had 10 cars, you know. So I think I would do it all for all 7 because especially when dealing with seniors on the weekend, a lot of them go out to church activities and stuff like that. So
Again, there's 2 parking lots. Get them lighted, build a sidewalk. Problem solved. They gotta use the parking lot. Why are we discussing about putting signs up? 2 parking
Really?
lots. Get it directed, put lights up. Yeah.
And here's
So
your
what-
staff,
What's the,
staff little stickers. This is staff.
what's the next? Any more discussion on this?
Yeah, I just, I
Mr.
wanted to make a comment. I think my biggest concern has more to do with us setting the precedent relative to people who live in residence having a problem with their neighbors parking certain places. And they may use this, although I think this is a little unique because what we have is a facility, for
Residents.
older people and people that have medical issues. And I don't know why staff, and of course the lighting may be an issue, but I don't know why staff cannot park on the parking lot. But I'm concerned that we put no parking in a residential area. We are gonna set a precedent for folk who say, oh, they went to the city and the city put up no parking signs because the lady didn't like folks parking in front of her house. So that's what concerns me. And I'm a little less opposed to the suggestion that there be limited no parking signs, like no parking specific time during the day, maybe when the facility has most of its employees working there and stuff. But I think 7 days, no parking is going a bit far. And I promise you, there'll be citizens that'll come up here later on who feel like this board will put up no parking signs if you don't like the fact that your neighbor parks in a certain spot.
I would agree. I would be in agreement with you. But if your neighbor is a business or facility, I think that really is what the focus of this is. If it were, if they were complaining about you and I as their neighbor, and we have 8 vehicles between us, then I would understand that would be, that's just one of those things you have to live with as a citizen. But the fact that this is a business, a facility, I think that's what makes it different than if it was just 2 residents arguing over a parking issue, having a parking dispute.
I did say this is a unique
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, you did say that.
I think I said that.
Even though this is a business, it's a residential care facility. Along with being a business, it's a home to the people that live there, to the clients, patients, or however you want to put it. So we have to be careful about when we use, in my opinion, the term residents, because their mail comes there. it's their home.
And I think a lot of this has to do with the business owner not doing not doing their part, because
And
You
the
could
business
call-
owner, I think the businesses they're out of state, so I guess we really need to talk to the owners.
and the thing is that with as much money as these homes generate, the utility company will come out tomorrow, put a pole out there with a light, in the parking lot on how many they're needing. And I want to say that when my wife's grandmother got one put in the yard, it was like $10 extra on her utility bill or something like that to have one of those light poles in her yard, and to have this building that draws in so much revenue, and you can't put lights out there for your employees in their parking lots. I mean, it seems like it's more the owner or the
owner.
business owner's problem. I think we definitely gotta push them to move towards getting something like that installed. It's not hard. Duke Progress will come out and put one out there.
And another concern is that you know that they're building houses, new developments are going up. That means more traffic is going to be generated in that area. So whatever we do is going to be protecting the homeowners that are there, the homeowners to come, and the facility. So we need to put the responsibility
On the owners.
on the owners.
Commissioner McCray.
Yeah, that was gonna be my statement. At the end of the day,
Owners.
when it comes down to the parking, when it comes down to hiring people out of town, when it comes down to protecting the employee, the onus falls on the business owner.
Yes.
So again, a lot of this, and as the chief said, and I think that was one of the suggestions that was made earlier, as far as the time parking. I think Monday through Friday we're fine, because usually typical facilities like that on the weekends, their staffing are much less on the weekends. And,
Skeleton.
than during the weeks. But at the end of the day, if a parking lot is, at the end of the day, it really falls on the business owner to make this, because if something happens, God forbid, but if, that's who the folks will be gunning for, the owners.
City attorney. City manager, I'm sorry.
He got promoted.
Just so I'm clear, right now, the next step you want us to take is to contact the owners.
The owners.
Get cooperation. Well, if that's the case, we'll make you aware as soon as that contact is taking place, because I know a lot of y'all are watching the situation.
Exactly.
And then we can come back after that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay.
And in that content, maybe you ask them about bringing their parking lot up to standards, lighting, sidewalk. Okay, so
Well, that would benefit them for the safety of their staff, for the safety of the visitors, because 9 to 5, you do have visitors to come, and you have some visitors to come after 5. So it would be a protection for them all the way around.
okay. So the city manager will take care of this issue as we move on. We move to city business. I'm sorry, does anybody else have anything to talk about the parking lot issue? We've done it so much parking in a year now. Okay. City business. The only item of city business is set the agenda for Tuesday, April 15 board meeting. And the first topic, item 4.1, was canceled to May 13th due to the developer will not be here for that meeting. The next one is 4.2, consider approval of 34 lot subdivision of Hicksmith Road and Daniel Street. The planning board recommends approval. And we'll consider voting on conditional rezoning of the Perry Farm development consisting of 527 plus acres that was tabled at the March 11 board meeting. We want to consider the conditional rezoning from AR40 to RMU residential mixed use, developing the property at 2.35 dwellings per acre. The planning staff recommends approval with the following condition: confirmation of FAA 7460 form and height restriction. That form was submitted already, right, Mr. Hart and Mr. Taylor? That form was submitted. There's an email came out of that. It says limit the height of the building to less than 50 feet. And in the park area for commercial component is proposed for track 1. Developer is donated the property for land. Our next item will be 4.4, presentation of FY 25-26 budget. And I think that we have the consent agenda. Consent items will be adopted with a single motion. Second on vote unless a request for removal from the consent agenda is heard from the council member. Then we'll move to set the February 2025 financial report, approved with March 3rd and March 11th board minutes. Appoint Brian Elliott as interim City of Oxford representative to the Granville County Tourism Board. And I think that will wrap up our meeting. Does anybody else have anything to do?
I got
Or Mayor Protem.
street sign for Green Street. Citizen asked us over a year ago to have a street sign, just the name of the street. And I did tell them that we had gone through some new branding and possibly the new street sign would come out with the new branding. But that person said they need a street sign because everybody don't have, what did he say? Everybody don't have GPS and they can't find the street. Another citizen contacted me about speeding on Henderson Street. There's no sidewalk. People are walking. It's a dangerous street. We all know that. And what we can do about it, the police giving me a nod. She's aware of that. But I did want to bring that.
And I will add, that's good. Those things good. Very important point. I want to add that there's residents talking about lighting in some areas in the city, Graball, some streets, Graball, and a couple other areas. I drove them at night. We had a lighting study done on that a year ago or maybe more. We need to make action on that. We can't have our residents living on the street without lights. We need to take action on that. And I would like to see that addressed in our board meeting Tuesday. What's the next step and what we're going to do and set a deadline so these people can know, so our residents can know we're not neglecting them. And I think that a report was made, I believe it was not by the police chief and her staff, or was it a joint between the police chief and the fire chief? So we need to look at that and provide our residents with lighting. Alongside the other complaint came from going down to the Havens where we have that long time sidewalk issue going on. That they've done Graham the corner. So we need to really show our citizens that we making progress toward these items.
I received, I talked to 2 residents that live on West College Street. And their concern was speeding as well, between West College, Crescent Drive, Old Baker to Goshen Street. So it's a full circle going through Maple Ridge Apartments. And specifically, they said during when kids are getting off the school bus at like 3 p.m. And I personally saw it last year when I was campaigning, like someone actually got up to about 45 miles per hour on Old Baker Street, which you would think was impossible if you weren't on a very strong car, but they were able to do it. And so I talking to one of the gentlemen, he said, yeah, people speed down this street all the time. And on West College Street, by me living right up the street from West College Street, I've seen that myself on that street. So I talked to the city manager, and I'm going to talk to the police chief as well as far as what we can do. I talked to Mr. Wortham also, and he's aware of the problem. So I told him we may end up needing him to come in and actually speak on this issue. But according to the residents, they basically say it's just a matter of time before somebody's child gets hurt, because people really aren't paying attention anymore to those school buses. So I'll get more information, but I'll bring that back to the board.
Anything else on parking, speeding, and all these issues? If not, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.